where we are having people coming to Barbados, for holidays and so forth, that may now reconsider going to another country, another island, or for that matter, another region. That's going to impact us economically. That's going to impact us socially. That is going to result in the increase in cost of living in Barbados. That is
Mhm.
going to increase in significant sense of hopelessness. That is simply going to add fuel to fire. You know what I'm saying? So let's hear what this tourist has to say. Dave, go right ahead and let's listen. All right, we're not getting any audio with it, so just check your audio there. Make sure your audio is up. But guys, I mean, this is deeply concerning.
Yeah,
This,
Dr. Ferdinand, I just wanted to say real quick on this because the current
huh?
government has gone completely all in on tourism. Their biggest claim to fame this year so far is building 7 new resorts
Hmm.
that nobody asked for. But since they're building these 7 new resorts, you would think that you would want the tourists to come to the safe, normal Barbados that they know and love. But
Hmm.
the safe, normal Barbados they know, even if a tourist came here pre-COVID, not too long ago, 5, 6 years ago, if they were to come back today, they'd be like, "What on earth is this place? These prices are sky high. Crime is sky high." Um, and those are the two main things. Like at the end of the day, our beautiful beaches can only carry us so far. If tourists like this video is really gonna go viral. I'm not. He doesn't speak with a full English accent. I'm not sure exactly where he's from, but people in
Hmm.
his country are gonna see this, and you might have had 2,000 of them every single year, and now none of them are gonna come anymore. So at the end of the day, we're gonna turn out like one of these old islands in the Bahamas that had luscious beaches. They built about 10 resorts on it, but now they're completely desolate. They're completely bankrupt. They're completely isolated because tourists are going to start coming if we don't do something about the crime immediately. So yeah, you could go ahead and play the video.
Yeah, Dave, go right
I
ahead with
was
it if
going to
you've
the
got the.
Jordan's market, which was closed. But while I was in front of the shop, I saw a motorcycle come from behind the corner, and before that, I heard some sounds that they sounded like gunshots, but I thought it was some tuned up car or something. But then I saw the motorcycle, and I thought, weird, motorcycles don't make that sound, and I just went off. But now coming back to the street, I was thinking like maybe it was gunshots that were coming from here. So I don't know.
But you didn't actually see any person shoot again?
No, I didn't see anyone shoot. I didn't see any, you know, nothing else. So yeah.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that that is going to potentially go viral. I'm sure he has his own view and audience, and as somebody will air a video like that. Sometimes people tell us that we are crying down Barbados, and we're not. We are sharing here the truth. We've always tried to do that. We are sharing here what is happening, and to be brutally frank with you. Um, the world does not need a Marcia week show to know what is going on in Barbados. The government seems to think that we are concealed from the rest of the world. Those days are over. Those days are gone. The world knows what's happening across the world. And I'm thinking, and there's the travel advisory for Barbados by the government of the UK, with regards to people coming here to Barbados. And I'm concerned. I'm concerned when I hear this kind of thing that will go all over the world. People will watch this show as well, and I'm sure that people who have come here over and over and over, Don and Shaquani and Thierry, are concerned about our country because they don't know Barbados to be like this. They've never seen a Barbados like this. They're used to coming, walking the streets, lying on the beaches, going to Oystins or going to Baxter's Road. I don't know if you're young enough or old enough to remember how they used to gather in Baxter's Road, and for the fish eating and all of that, and
Yeah.
so on. I mean,
But you see, Dr. Ferdinand, that's what separates our tourism product from the rest of the Caribbean. Our prices are so high, we can't really compete with like mass tourism destinations like Mexico or Montego Bay, Jamaica. We can't because our prices are just simply too high. But what we can compete on is guaranteeing safety and peace of mind and all of
Mhm.
these things. So that's why we get a different set of tourists than those other places get. Like we just simply can't compete. But if we lose the only edge that we have, which is our safety, the tourists feel like they can catch the regular bus like with everybody else. They can go into Oystons and same
Hmm.
Baxter's Road as you said with everybody else. And that's the only thing we have that kind of keeps Barbados at the cream of the crop for the Caribbean tourism destinations. So if we lose that safety, we've lost the only thing that we're really competing on. Because you can't say that Barbados is like as beautiful as Jamaica or as affordable as Jamaica. We really aren't. That's the reality of it. The only thing we have is a couple good beaches and the safety. But you see, the safety means a lot for somebody who's traveling a couple thousand miles. So with that safety being gone at this point in time and probably into the near future, it's really the nail in the coffin for us.
Hmm. Don, I'm going to
Um,
just ask you if you could. Sorry, Theory. Don, I just want to ask you, Dave, if you could just roll that screen back down a bit. Don, if you could just read that that travel advisory. Um, and funny
Terrorism.
enough, yeah, look at that. Funny enough, um, oh my goodness, look,
There is
come
a
down,
high
Dave.
threat of
Come down a
terror.
bit.
Hmm?
I just want to make sure this is the UK. This is the UK travel advice. Look at that. Go ahead, Dave. Don, read it from the top. It's the travel
Yeah.
advisory from the UK. Go ahead.
Terrorism. There's a high threat of terrorist activity globally affecting UK interests and British nationals, including from groups and individuals who view the UK and British nationals as targets. Stay aware of your surroundings at all times. UK counter-terrorism policing has information and advice on staying safe abroad and what to do in the event of a terrorist attack. Terrorism in Barbados. Although there is no recent history of terrorism in Barbados, attacks cannot be ruled out. Crime. There have been incidents of violent crime, including armed robbery, sexual assault, gang related shootings. There's been an increase in gang related murders involving guns. Some incidents have taken place in populated and public areas. Take sensible precautions to protect your personal safety. Make sure your accommodation is secure. Take care when walking alone off busy main roads and taking money from ATMs. Avoid isolated areas, including beaches, particularly after dark. Only use licensed taxis. Take particular care around large gatherings, including street and beach parties, especially after dark or during the festival season. Do not
Wow.
carry large amounts of cash or wear expensive looking jewelry. Leave valuables and travel documents in a safety deposit box or secure hotel space.
And that's the advice that's being given to their nationals traveling into Barbados. And you
Well,
know,
you see, if I was to read this before coming to Barbados, I might just cancel the trip because what was the point in coming? Because
because you do want to come to enjoy the culture and the
the
country and the people.
most the most concerning part of what I read just now for me was the
Mhm.
around the national festival because they're essentially
Yes,
saying
yes,
be careful at crop over events. So
correct,
and
correct.
that is where we get the majority of our tourism. Like we only get money from I would say December to April during the year. The rest of the year is extremely dead for the whole economy.
Mhm.
I would love to like see the actual numbers, but our economy rises and falls drastically between the tourist season and the non-tourist season. And the only exception to that is the 2 to 3 week span of the crop over events. The economy picks back up. So the fact that England are directly targeting that as well, kind of
Yeah.
cautioning away from coming at the specific festival time, that's a big red flag.
But Shaquani, when you hear these statements, when you read these statements that are being put out by another government, huh? Not by us, it makes me wonder. Has the government seen this? Are they aware of these warnings? That I want to believe. Obviously, I'm asking a rhetorical question, and a sarcastic one, because the government must be aware that this is being put out by the UK government. And if that's the case, this is not a joke. This is not something where you can distract with some of the things that we're seeing. I call them red herrings. Being being dragged across the thing. But actually, before I come to you, Shaquani, I want to theory. You were talking about um, independent body, independent bodies to handle these matters. And I'm just thinking, in terms of what's running through your mind, because you're a young man, the future of the country is before you, and all of you are going to be contributing to the future of Barbados, and as you move ahead. What are some, along with what you shared, what do you think are some of the things that can be done on a local ground level? We appreciate having the regional security services and so forth. And I'll be watching something that the Deputy Prime Minister shared. But what do you think can be done, apart from the fact that it's government's responsibility to keep the country safe? What do you think are some of the things that we can do as a community? I've heard criticism of the church. I've heard all kinds of things. But in your mind, as a young, not just a young man, a young person in the country, what are some of the other things you think that we could do to help rein this entire thing in?
Ferdinand, I am thankful that you asked me that question. As I mentioned before, the republic that I would love to see Barbados become is something that can occur. And on that note, it has to be fundamentally, apologies, anchored with respect to community. When I say community, I'm looking at institutions such as Neighborhood Watch, that being an integral part of different neighborhoods or different sections or combinations of neighborhoods which will form that of a community, right? More community sporting programs. We have community food programs where you can have community gardens, right? And most importantly, as a people, the government has been taking up so many loans. Why don't you invest in programs to increase the numbers of police? Something that always was strange to me. We have the cadet corps, Barbados Defense Force Cadet Corps.
Yes.
But why don't we have the police explorers? If you're saying that you want to have better policing, better security in the country, you have to start to not necessarily target, but inspire individuals to say, look, I want to become a police. So I believe having a police explorer program in schools is something that must be implemented. So I'm just going to recap. One, we should be having something such as a neighborhood watch, not a suggestion, but a part of community governance, right? That is one. Two, we need to have better sporting program because children, young adults love sports. I've seen multiple situations in what persons would call ghettos or low income neighborhoods, and persons will have beef, man. And it'll be like, I don't really about that. I want to play some football, even though they have an issue. Just say, man, I worry about I playing football. They're able to get out that extra energy, that extra anguish. That's two. Three, we need to have community gardening, community food program, something that I always hail Tate Block for, right? The Tate neighborhood, but specifically the block, right? They have every day. I don't think it changed recently. We'll have to check, but every day, because it was advertised on the news. Not advertised, but it was showcased on the news, right? Every day, persons in the community, and I'm talking about persons who are necessarily lower income individuals, they can bring a potato, bring a piece of chicken, and they will put it in pots. And once you bring something, you could get something to eat. That's happening up there in Tate Hill, right? But it's happening specifically on the block. So community food programs. I don't know what any other blocks are doing it, but for sure Tate Hill block they do it for sure, right? How the frequency of it, I don't know if it changed, but it used to be every day. So things like that should be standard. That should be integrated into the societal culture of Barbados. If we can do these things, we can teach the youth how to grow food, teach the youth how to grow food and be a part of that vision. Then you're gonna start to see peer persons come together, because if I grow food with you together, if I can play with you together, we can play with each other. My apologies. If we can watch each other's backs, then you're going to start to see a change. That's on the community level. It also mentioned, fourthly, with respect to the Police Explorers program, they want that to happen as soon as possible. I don't care who does it, it needs to happen, because you're going to start to see persons, they're going to be like, oh, I could potentially become a police officer. And my sixth point is that I believe somebody that somebody not that necessarily, but some of the loans that they're taking should be invested in increasing the numbers of police officers and increasing the pay of the police officers, which I iterated countless occasions on this show. So those 6 points,
Mhm.
what we need to do locally. Thank you very much.
Excellent. But very quickly, Shaquani, because recently I heard a article, I heard a comment with relating to the educational level of persons in prison, or persons committing these what we would call heinous crimes, so to speak. And the comment had to do with some of them operating at some exceptionally low levels of education. There was a time that Barbados boasted of having a 98% literacy rate, in which every Barbadian could read and write. And what I heard recently, and I'm sure all of you must have heard it or heard something about it relative to connecting the two together. What are your thoughts on that, Shaquani? The aspect of the educational development of the individual and what's happening in terms of these gang related and crime related activities.
I have made statements publicly saying that they're directly related. For the
Hmm.
mere fact that when you can't communicate, you can't understand, you automatically get angry. So imagine you have many young people leaving school, not being able to read, leaving primary school, leaving secondary school, not being able to fully operate in society because they cannot function on their own. You have, and I don't think people understand something as basic as filling out a form to work, they can't do on their own because they don't know how to read it.
Wow.
They may not
Wow.
even know how to spell their own name because we're seeing people leaving school with that level of not being prepared. It's like we are just putting them out there into society and forgetting that people who can't understand communicate to each other to resolve conflict will obviously take another option, and with that we need to put serious programs in place to start combating it starting as young as primary school. We need to stop this practice with promoting people if they're not ready for the promotion. There's no way if you're failing all of your subjects, you should still go up because there's a sentiment where nobody should stop down. That is ridiculous because we're just getting people promoted to get out of school. We have too many young men and women. When they leave school, they have nothing to do besides lame, look for trouble, look to attack somebody because they cannot operate or function in a 9 to 5 job. So they're looking for the rest of the hours of the nighttime. We have to realize that if we don't tackle this, if we do not create initiatives to help this, we are creating a bigger problem. Like you have said, they're experiencing a lot more people in prison not being able to communicate or read or write. So, with that, what is the plan? You know that this is an issue. So, what is the plan that you're going to put in place? And it cannot be just additional activities, partying, partying, partying. At some point, a party might want to read something. So you need to recognize that we have an issue, we identify how we want to fix it and start implementing the solutions. That is
Hmm.
the only
Hmm.
way we can go forward.
Just today I was chatting with a couple of people, and I don't, as a Christian minister, as a Christian period, right? Because I don't want people to see me as a minister who is devoid of being human. So I'm just a believer, and I don't like to be negative. I don't like to be pessimistic. I like to be optimistic. I like to be positive, but I also have to be realistic. And I was sharing with them today that unless we take some very serious action, we are going to lose a generation of young people. And I am not necessarily ignoring the current stock of young people. When I say that, you all would know what I mean, coming out of school in this secondary school level. But no, I'm looking at the younger ones coming into primary school. What can we start doing at that level that will begin to impact and bring about change as they progress through the educational system, that will not result in them um, just dropping out, and and dropping into this category. And I'm aware of the fact that sometimes you can do the best for children. I don't think any of you all have children yet. I don't believe so. I have, and I have grands. I have six grandchildren.
I don't have
um,
any children.
and and I'm just thinking, what can we do from those levels that would bring about the change and transition and help them develop even as entrepreneurs. It's like we wait too late to lead young people into the entrepreneurship aspect. Why don't we start treating that from early? Why don't we start engaging those aspects from very, very early in their lives, and helping to bring about change? And as I was saying, sometimes you can do your best. I know parents that do their best for children and they still turn out to be deviant. I, however, remember a comment, Don. I don't know if you might remember it during his administration. President Obama made a comment about the African Americans in prison, and it was something along the lines that over 90 something percent, I think he indicated, of the African American persons incarcerated were from fatherless homes.
Yeah, is a lack
And
of a good role model, a lack of a good
that's
example.
really what I want to get at, the role model. Yes, go ahead.
Mhm. Okay,
No, go ahead.
yeah, I would just yeah underscore that point for sure. Not have I was really really blessed. I would say that was my biggest blessing. No matter how short the time period was, I knew both of my parents, and they treated me with a lot of love and respect. And I think that's the biggest thing that a child can have. My dad passed away pretty early, but he still got to teach me for the few years we had him for. And
Mhm.
most people don't even have that. There are a lot of children that grow up,
Yes,
they don't even
yes.
know who their father is. And that's a more realistic scenario than my scenario, to be honest.
Hmm,
So
hmm.
for all the people all across Barbados, America, everywhere, in America, it's even tougher because they have, institutional racism. Almost the system is set up in place so to create fatherless black homes. Here in
Yeah,
Barbados, it just kind of happens just because a lot of men just don't step up to the task of being that present father. But for our
yeah,
society
yeah,
to get any better, yeah, we can blame the government. We definitely can say that they're not doing enough. But a good set of this blame for the rise in crime does need to fall on parents' shoulders as well. Parents
yeah,
aren't parenting as well as they were before. And that's not a shot at any particular generation of parents, but I guess they're letting more devices run the children's lives. I know
yes,
as a
yes.
5 year old, if I was a 5 year old boy in today's times, majority of the stuff I'd be looking at on YouTube would be, guns, drugs, all of that kind of stuff.
And
And
the
I
video
just think
games,
that
the type of
the
video
right
games that you would have.
the
Yeah,
fact that we didn't have access to that, like I might sound old here no, but when I was growing up, we didn't really have internet and stuff like that. Wi-Fi only came around, I remember, when I was like 13. Like for the very first time they had Wi-Fi, and you could like move the computer off of the current and walk around with it, and that was a mad thing. So
you
I
you
mean,
you didn't. You came up in the days when you could move the computer. I remember in my day, and this was as a young man, not a child. There were computers you couldn't even lift to
mhm,
get them moved. But
exactly.
John, but you remember, I go back as a child. I grew up with guns. I
Hmm.
grew up with the Lone Ranger. I don't know if you all heard anything about him. I grew up with the Lone Ranger in Tonto. I grew up with two six guns on my side and a white herb hat. I grew up with caps. These caps that you could roll into the gun and put into the gun. I grew up with those. I grew up playing what do you call it? Cowboys and Indians. I
Mm,
grew up that, but I haven't become a criminal. And so there are those persons who want to attribute the development of these aspects to the accessibility of guns, and to my mind, the jury is still a bit out on that because there are conflicting views where that is concerned. But I think what was critical for me was the influence of my parents, the influence of my
Mhm.
mother, who of course was a principal. She was a teacher. I was the youngest child, so she kept me under her wing. So I grew up with that influence, so to speak. I grew up respecting the fact that every person is a human being and deserving of the dignity of that. That was instilled in my mind. But listen, let's take a look at this caption here with the deputy prime minister. Dave, I don't know if you could bring it down for us as we begin. No, sorry, I should take it up, because the caption here, Thierry, Shaquani, and Don, troubled me. It was almost like Bill Gates warning the world that there's going to be another pandemic. You know what I'm talking about? It's like
Yeah.
there's already a plan for another pandemic. There's already a plan for another crime wave, because the here are two of the most influential ministers of government warning of a new crime wave. How could you be warning us of a new crime wave? What are you suggesting with this warning? What signs are you seeing? And if you're seeing those signs, what are you doing about it? Are you suggesting that there's nothing you could do? So watch out. This is what's going to happen, guys. Your thoughts. Any of you can jump in and have a go at one after the other.
Dr. Ferdinand, I honestly, I'm confused. I'm wondering if they're saying that we should raise a white flag. We don't want to be a part of the crime because it's ridiculous. Why are you warning us? We can already see. We told you, furthermore, we told the government that there's an issue on crime, because remember before they were saying that, oh, we don't really have an issue with crime. So now that they're now on the same level acknowledging that we have an issue with crime, you have a second wave. What are you doing to stop the second wave? What is the plan? What is the implementation? You cannot just say there's a second wave and not do anything. We know what the issues are. We've heard from the Commissioner of Police today of a whole detailed plan of what happened. We want to know what is the plan to stop it. Stop it at all levels, whether it is the white collar crime, it is the the robberies, it is people getting shot, is the gang violence. We want to know what is the plan, even if they're tackling them one by one. But you can't just not tackle nothing at all and then tell us we need to prepare ourselves. How do we prepare? How do we brace? We're not even safe in our homes at this time, because as we can see, people can get into your house without the keys, without the locks, without going through the windows. So I want to know what is the government's plan, even if it is just one element of crime that they're trying to protect Barbadians from. What is the plan? It is
Yeah,
about time that they roll out something to see how Barbadians can protect themselves, or what is their plan to stop crime from being this violent.
Dave, there is a paragraph there. I think just under the first picture, it's a paragraph that has this caption in it. It says, "The Deputy Prime Minister, visibly moved as she spoke, revealed that of the 25 homicides reported in Barbados just days earlier, she personally knew 20 of the victims." I don't know if you can. There you go. There it is. And she says this is no longer something you read in a paper or see online. This is our reality. It's our communities, our children, our neighborhoods, and we're becoming numb to it. But when one and I don't know if you all were able to view a little earlier when I was commenting, and Mr. Murray was commenting, government's number one responsibility, listed by all international agencies, including the World Economic Forum, is to keep its citizens secure and safe. That is government's responsibility, to provide the environment, the framework, so to speak, for that to exist. So if you are in government and this is the statement you are making, the question we have for you is, what are you going to do about it? Theory.
What are they going to do about it?
You know, I listed all 6 of the things. I mixed 1 or 2 that you stated, but what have you heard the government make any suggestions apart from blaming us as the citizenry? Because when you get down to, I think, the bottom of this article, and I'm coming back to your theory, don't think I'm not. When you get down to the bottom of this article, um, it's almost like if here you have Abrams, who's the member of Parliament for Christchurch. He's urged Barbadians to stop turning a blind eye